Hi, hi, welcome. My name is Rebecca, and I am the member lead at Front and Center. And we are here today. This is the first day of our week-long event at the historic Columbia City Theater. We are partnering with Rainier Avenue Radio and also partnering with our wonderful members here all week. This is my friend Everly, and she is from Utopia, Washington. And today we're having a kitchen table conversation. This conversation, we're just going to be casual. So bear with us. We're a little nervous. We got all the, yeah, let's shake it out. This conversation is our first one. And what we're doing this whole year is we are traveling out to our members and we are talking about what it means to be part of this community, what it means to be a frontline leader of environmental justice and to talk about climate change. But most of all, we get to hang out, we get to talk, we get to sit with each other and really get to explore really what it means just to be in community with each other and why our different cultures and thoughts and feelings are important to each other. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And again, my name is Rebecca. I am with Front and Center. Throughout this, I will be talking with my hands because that's what I do. But that's all right. You'll get to learn all of our quirks as you tune in throughout the year. You'll get to learn who we are, all of our friends, and then all of our friends inside the coalition, and then also our friends outside the coalition. But that's enough about us. That's enough about what we're going to do. I'm going to pass it over to our star of the day, Everly.
I don't know about star yet, but thank you. Thank
On
you
your
for
way.
the opportunity.
On your way.
Hello, everyone, and greetings. Talo Falava. My name is Everly Faleafine. I use she and her pronouns. And I am a Speak Change Program Manager with Utopia Washington. Utopia Washington stands for United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance. And we are a trans-led PI grassroots organization, rather community-based. And we're actively working to replace systems of oppression with ecosystems of care and safety and love, among many things, through organizing communities through Black and Brown, and as well as for many for all communities. And we do this work out of love, and we also recognize the historical harm that has come through, many challenges while advocating or navigating systems in search of equity in resources and what have you. And so being a part of that grounds us in doing this work. So yes, and it's a privilege and an honor to be having this conversation with the lovely Rebecca of Front and Center. This is basically our second year going strong as a member of Front and Center, doing a lot of collaboration in terms of environmental and cultural awareness and advocacy on the importance of not only our cultural values, what we bring to the table as individuals, but also as a collective, and what that looks like for for creating an environment that will inspire change, and that it can be beneficial for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so fun to collaborate. Everly and Utopia are part of our transportation work group. We also, Utopia has a lot of amazing events. So we get pretty excited about having a member like Everly, because not only does she show out in our work groups, but she also shows out for as far as just having fun in some of these events. You have a couple of events coming up for Earth Day. You want to tell us about it?
Yes, of course. So, in celebration of Earth Day, last year we did something quite, that centers around community, going out to beautify our cities or urban areas and green spaces, we're often secluded from those spaces. And this year, we want to do something more moving, something more intentional, and thinking about some of the eco-friendly ways that we can combat climate change, and that is to address the fabric waste problem that has been on the rise for quite some time. And we're starting, or we're kicking off our first event of Earth Day with our Talano series, or basically what we're doing right now is our open conversation. And we're inviting, or we've invited several members from our task force committees or other coalitions that we've been working with. And one of them is Front and Center's very own Sierra, who's going to be one of our panelists, as well as Vicky Raya, who is very instrumental in organizing marginalized and underserved communities around King County. And she is part of the King County Climate Equity Community Task Force, which she heads that organized, or I mean that coalition exclusively. And a surprise there, we've also invited Dr. Sabrina Su'ai Mahuka, who represents our PI community in American Samoa. She's going to be tuning in all the way from American Samoa. And our panel is going to talk about navigating systems in search of equity. And it's gonna be on Social Live, so look out for that Social Live link that's going to be posted on all of our social media platforms via utopia.org. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. We also have our Wednesday night, our youth takeover, youth radio takeover, where all of the youth are going to come out to Rainier Avenue Radio, Columbia City Theater, right here on Rainier Avenue. And what's happening there is we are going to pass the mic to the youth. So they are going to talk about it. They are going to just take over and talk about what they feel about climate change, what they feel in their schools, what they feel about safety and gun violence, all of the things, because that's important. Youth need to have a voice. So if you can't be here, you need to be there.
And also, I forgot to mention our biggest event is on Saturday.
Yes.
Which is our fashion show and a community yard sale. So please, if you have any unused, gently used, or old clothes hanging out in your closets, please bring them over to our 812 Central Avenue North address in Kent, and we'll be glad and we appreciate your donation in that effort.
Now, are you taking donations anytime after the Saturday?
Actually, not quite, because we don't want to also be the closet of old clothes.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah. But if we get whatever amount of clothes that we'll be getting from this clothes drive, then we'll be donating it to some of our partnering organizations, like Rainbow Center, who are also working with homeless individuals and basically folks with needs.
Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about some of the programs that you have at Utopia.
Yeah. So with my program, I'm part of the Speak Change program. Speak Change stands for Systems, Policy, Environmental, and Cultural Change. And what that basically is to speak into existence the change that we as a community want to reflect in some of the policies and systems in our different governing agencies around Seattle, Washington as a whole. And it can look like anything from transportation justice, housing, affordable energy, clean air, and even especially LGBTQIA gender affirming care.
Mhm.
And just recently, we're so happy to, witness a bill that almost evaded us from that opportunity,
Mhm.
and from having to have that freedom to access free healthcare systems through
Mhm.
gender affirming care. And thank you so much for everyone for your support on House Bill 1469. That has passed, and it's going to
Mhm.
become I guess, um, something promising,
Yes.
for our community. And yeah, I'm so proud of that.
Mhm.
We also have a mapumaya. Mapumaya means to basically find comfort, where you'll find comfort. And that is a direct service of our health wellness program, giving free healthcare clinic services to all communities in need of healthcare service,
Mhm.
uh, in accessing vaccinations, um, HIV/AIDS testing, and many more. And we also have a cultural program,
Mhm.
which is called Mana. And with that is basically a program that um, elevates a lot of our cultural, the need to elevate cultural, um, I guess, cultural practices
Mhm.
and cultural values within the diaspora. Yeah.
The preservation of your culture is very important to you. Since I've met you and since I've seen you in action, and just by the way that you carry yourself, it's very real that as a person that not only works with you as a partner in the coalition, but also just is just happy to be in your presence. Um, I know that the feeling and that the culture that you are a very proud person, and so tell us about like that. This is Earth Week, and we want to talk about how like preserving your culture and the islands, right? Pacific Islands right now, for those of you out there listening, right now climate change is affecting the Pacific Islands in a very serious way. It's really making the islands unlivable. You want to talk about a little bit about that? I know that that's something very important to a lot of people that I've met in your kind of in your circle.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca. That's a very, very important question to ask, especially in trying to learn for folks out here in America, or the big states or the big countries, has no idea of the discomforts and the, I guess, the fear that we live with in
Mhm.
terms of sinking islands, and big, land masses are drowning at the very second,
Mhm.
trying to survive. I think it goes both ways in terms of losing the island, losing your home, which also harms a lot of things like your language, it harms the people. It also definitely will harm and cause a lot of suffrage for the culture.
Mhm.
The preservation point to that is, without land, without our lands, our native lands, there's no indication of any survival for our culture to exceed beyond that limit, if it does comes down to that. And it is, now it's more important than ever for big countries like the US, China, to think about the harm that you know a lot of big um, companies
Oil.
are causing to.
Mhm.
Sorry, I had to really find my words there. But yeah, but are causing small island nations. Basically, they're at the front line and experiencing the biggest hold on climate change, and the impacts of that, which is, it's it's scary. It's really scary. And by doing this, by having these conversations, it's important to voice that out, so that we can be more accountable. And I'm so thankful and grateful for islands like Vanuatu. You
Yeah.
know, they basically made they basically went and knocked on the UN's door
Mhm.
to think about the problem, think about what's out there that they don't really talk about as often.
Mhm.
They don't really talk about island nations.
Mhm.
They're talking about capitalism. You know, they're talking about economic stability
Mhm.
more so. But the safety part and the well-being and the preservation part of other ecosystems is not a priority, I guess. So I'm thankful for Vanuatu. They were able to get the International Court of Justice to recognize the disproportionality that our island nations are going through, and because Vanuatu is among the many smaller groups that are really experiencing you know, their island sinking,
Mhm.
and they're running around trying to find ways to save their islands, basically. But to what extent? Like how can we be sustainable with just conversations? There needs to be aggressive action that needs to
Mhm.
happen. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's where it comes from, right? We have these conversations because they're good foundations, right? They're
Right.
good starts. But what type of actions do you see that people here in Washington, what type of actions do you feel like not only your organization, but you see in other organizations that they are taking to combat this?
Yeah, by standing in solidarity,
Mm-hmm.
um, continue the conversation, talk about it amongst your peers, share the stories, share the stories around. Like there needs to be another type of elevation that needs to happen in terms of basically sharing stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the word gets out, and be there for be intentional about it. Don't just talk about it. Don't just speak the names of the countries or the people, but be intentional. Go out and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
So you're saying don't talk about it, be about it?
be about it. Don't talk about it, but just be there.
Be about it. So how do we connect not only with Utopia, but what do you think about like collaborations in Washington? What do you think about collaborations? Because when we talk about environmental justice and when we talk about community and all of these things, there's so many communities out there working on the same thing. What is your vision for collaboration within Washington, not only with your focus community, but also with just like communities everywhere, like that are working on the same thing? What's that vision of collaboration look like? Oh, just gonna drop this.
I think that's a very good question.
I mean to put you on the spot.
No, no, no. I like to be on the spot. Anyways, I think finding, regardless of our differences, regardless of where we come from as individuals, I think finding a common ground where we can lay out all of our differences and just create or weave a network that works for everyone as a collective. There's a lot of creativity and a lot of resilience from forming from the means of diversity. Okay, recognizing so much diversity is important, and with diversity, it sparks a lot of creativity and and wisdom. Okay, like I may not have the answers to some things, my sister here, Rebecca, may have it, and that's where that relationship can happen.
Mhm.
Building that common ground where we can share amongst each other, not just our culture, our food, our language, but also our lived experiences.
Mhm.
I think that's a powerful way to connect the dots between uh, diverse island communities or diversity in general. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sharing that, well, we are in the kitchen table and you did
Yes.
bring some good food. And then food is important not only in a lot of our cultures, right? And so you brought some good food. What does it mean to like gather around in that space with your family and your friends? And what do you tend to talk about? How do you raise awareness within your family and friends around the good food that you brought? We're sharing the food with everybody else. So you at home do not get to have any of this wonderful food, but you could talk about what you brought today. And then also too is how do you raise awareness within your family unit?
Yeah, thank you. That's a beautiful question. Food, I think food to me is um, it has a sense of you know it has a sense of function that
Mm-hmm.
tends to bring people together, regardless of where you're from. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but with myself, growing up, food is everything for our family, and basically for every Samoan individual. And I know if there's any Samoans that's listening in, they can agree that food is everything for our people.
Mm-hmm.
We basically eat everything from pork to beef to chicken, and we farm them. We have like plantations because where um, that's where we have that relationship with the land, is having sovereignty over not only with what we eat but how we grow them, and that is a big part of our food sovereignty program with Utopia Washington. And not only with the land, okay, but since our island is surrounded by
Mm-hmm.
the ocean is a big part of that source of where we get our food from. And with the rise of climate change,
Mm-hmm.
the current situation where climate change is heading, we are losing that. We're losing that. We're getting to such a substantial area in food scarcity because of the ocean acidification process, where a lot of our local fishes and marine life animals are migrating elsewhere to find a more soluble place to live. We can't find food close to the coastal areas as often as before. And as a matter of fact, there is a lot of marine regulations that the federal government has put out for island nations to not, go over a certain limit. But it has caused a lot of impact in terms of accessing food for our islands.
So I will say that we are going to go to a commercial break in about a minute,
Hmm.
but so I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to talk a little bit about like that's such a power. Those are so powerful, right?
Hmm.
Those are real fears of like our habits, our food habits, the way we
Right.
eat is changing because the seafood, right? We don't get that. But how do you talk to your family about it? And again, we may have to cut off,
Hmm.
but we'll come back after the commercial break, and we'll talk some more. But I really want to know, like, how do we talk to each other and our families about these very, very real and important issues?
Yeah, thank you. I guess I don't think there's a need to talk about it because of the obvious reason that we are experiencing food scarcity. But I think what needs to be talked about is, um, finding resources outside of that. And I guess we can't really um, find a good way to get a grasp of that unless we share what we think.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to have to pause here
Yeah.
and we're going to go to commercial break, but we'll come back. And thank you everybody for listening. We are at Columbia City Theater, the historic Columbia City Theater. You can come by and have these conversations with us in person and tune into Radio Avenue Radio. They have a wonderful plethora of showings. So again, we'll see you after the commercial break.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and when I'm not translating the lyrics of Boogie Oogie Oogie for bored Europeans, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
COVID-19 hurt my income, my health, and my family. We were about to lose our home when we heard we might be eligible for homeowner assistance funds from the government. We called 1-877-894-HOME, and a housing counselor stepped in, they talked to our lender, and saved our home. Because falling on hard times does not have to mean losing your home. Federal funding details at washingtonhaf.org.
What's going on, world? It's your boy OG Mambo.
And your guy D Money. Join us along with Pint Size Patron and ID Yourself
Here on Fresh Juice at Rainier Avenue Radio.
every Wednesday hump day from 9 to 11 Pacific.
Get exclusive interviews from your favorite artists, all the hottest music, and updates on what we got going on in the world.
That's every Wednesday, 9 to 11 p.m. on Seattle's Rainier Avenue Radio.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and back in my day, when we wanted to hear the radio, we had to stick a couple of coat hangers on Grandpa's head so his cavity fillings could pick up an AM station. But it's the 21st century now, so whenever I want to hear Rainier Avenue Radio.world, I listen to it on the brand new Rainier Avenue Radio app on my Android or iPhone. Download it for free at the Google Play Store or the iPhone App Store. The Rainier Avenue Radio.world app.
On Rainier Avenue Radio.world, look for the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show. I'm Dennis Weaver, your good food guide and host, helping you to feel good and look good, and who wouldn't want some of that? All that and more from the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Stories, songs, and guests. Begin living the organic good food life, and the rest of your life just may be the best of your life. Always up, baby, to your health.
Did you know that there's an updated COVID-19 booster that protects you even more than the original vaccines? Even if you got the first vaccinations, now it's time to get this new updated booster shot. It's especially important for adults 50 and over and people with a compromised immune system. Even though you may not hear about people catching COVID as often, each week in King County, some people even end up in the hospital because of it. So check with your loved ones and make sure they've gotten an updated booster. For more information on where to get a COVID vaccine, including free vaccination resources, visit kingcounty.gov/vaccines. kingcounty.gov/vaccines.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the Kitchen Table Conversations. My name is Rebecca with Front and Center, And this is Everly with Utopia Washington. Earlier, if you were listening, we talked about some of the food that Everly brought here to share with everybody. And Everly, if you want to talk about what you brought, and this is going to be going on all week. So join us here at the Columbia City Theater, where we have our Earth Deserves More Than a Day, because it really does. Earth Deserves More Than a Day series. All right, Everly, you want to talk about a little bit of what you brought here that we have been sharing?
Of course. So I brought with me basically chicken, grilled chicken, baked chicken, you can call it whatever. And then taro. I don't know if you can see it from this angle, but we got taro here. Taro is a delicacy from Samoa. And yeah, it's grown everywhere in the Pacific. And then we also have corned beef. Yeah.
So it was good. It was really good. You'll have to take my word on it. Or you could come down to the theater and maybe we'll have some left over, but I highly doubt it unless you get here within the next 5 minutes or so. Come on out. So, but thank you so much. I think that the taro and the corned beef were my favorite. And don't let her fool you. It's not just baked chicken. I mean, the chicken's good. And you also brought turkey tail, right?
Oh yes, I got turkey tail, but one of our I think Aurora ate all of them.
So, and those of you who know Aurora, she knows where all the best restaurants are. So, I mean, if you're going to look up front and center, maybe you just look up front and center for all the great restaurant recommendations, because we got them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I love about front and center's events. The food they bring to the table is always delicious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I ask a question?
Sure.
How did kitchen table conversations come about?
Oh, good question. Good question. So it just started with, I came to join all my friends at Front and Center. I just started, and we were talking about how we talk to each other and how we communicate and reach out. And I said, you know, it starts at the kitchen table, really, for me at least. And it seems like for other people too. Kitchen table is where, at least in my house, in my family, is where you get in trouble, where you talk about it, where you sort things out. You talk about, you know, you really kind of, it's that problem solving, it's the nucleus of the house. And, you know, as we expand in community, it doesn't necessarily have to be the kitchen table in an actual kitchen, but sometimes it's the farm table, right? Sometimes it's the table that is in a communal space, right? But with the same idea of, that's where your soul gets fed. That's where your bellies get fed. That's where your heart gets fed, is at the kitchen table. And hopefully these conversations that we are kicking off with our friends Utopia throughout the year, hopefully these conversations will do exactly that. We will feed each other in community, right? So it may be food, it may be drinks, it may be just like pearls of wisdom that we're sharing with each other. So yeah, that's how kitchen table conversation, and that's hopefully where it's going to go. So thank you.
That's beautiful. I mean, I relate to that because it does provide, I think, comfort and some solace in terms of, you know, when you, after a long day of working and doing a lot of stuff that you do on a normal basis, like having to come together as a community or as your, you know, nucleus family, nothing beats that, you know, over your comfort food. Like I think for me, as a Samoan grown individual, trans woman of color, this is my comfort food. Taro. It has to have taro, because without taro, there's no meaning to this plate, because I could just like simply throw it out.
Well, you can't take it with you. You're gonna have to leave it here.
You can keep it here.
You get a little too close. We got a couple people here in the audience that we still have to share with. So, But good to know. Good to know. Are there any local businesses or local that like feed the community that you want to talk about? I know that Utopia has a food program.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Good point. I almost forgot about my food sovereignty team, who has been doing a lot of amazing work in providing food for communities. And we do a lot of things. We do hot meals every fourth Friday. It runs from 2 to 4, and we continue to invite people. If you're not doing anything, Friday, the fourth Friday of every month, around 2 to 4, please come on down to Utopia, Washington, and dine with us. Enjoy some hot meal with us, and just have conversation. Let's break bread and just share stories, And then there's our maketki. It's Samoan for markets, and that's basically our food pantry project where we've been working alongside different food vendor organizations around King County and providing food access and food security for communities. And then there's our Project Dash program, our DoorDash. We box up different foods and then we serve it we have DoorDash people come in and deliver them to folks that are basically living in a 15-yard radius from our center location, and then they've been servicing more than 100 people so far. So great team. Shout out to Tony and Sasha of our food sovereignty program for creating that service for our community, making it easier for them to access food. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super important. I don't know how to keep up with Utopia Washington. There's like a food program. Let's see, what did you talk about today? There's a food program. There is a cultural program.
As a matter of fact, our luau is coming up.
Yes, I was waiting for you to talk about this.
That is basically one of our biggest main events of the year.
It's big.
It's big. It's really grand. If you were there last year, well, it's going to be bigger this year as it grows every year. For this year, we've changed from a luau. We're not calling it luau anymore because it's just so, out of date. But we're calling it ho'olaulea. So that is a Hawaiian native term for, I guess, to showcase the beauty in culture, and through different means of performing arts like dancing, musical plays, singing, acting, and everything that involves performance. So this year we're going to be I think the story will highlight, or the story is going to be called Tausi. And that is basically about carrying a
excuse me.
Yeah.
Sierra and I were there last year,
yes.
And it was just, it was amazing. Tell me a little bit about the speaker, because the speaker just kind of knocked us off. We were just like, wow. The whole show, the dance, the performance, from start to finish, we were just in awe. But that speaker that you had last year was so powerful. Tell us a little bit about that. And if you excuse me, I'm going to cough while you do that.
So we had the privilege and honor to invite one of our trans women who lives in Hawaii and does a lot of LGBTQIA outreach programs in Hawaii, and she's amazing. She's been doing that for quite some time, advocating for LGBTQIA rights in many things, and her story bringing awareness on the indigeneity, the importance of preserving our indigenous Pasifika rituals and traditions and heritage to make sure that our generation, our future generation, are being taken care of in terms of culture, making sure that they have a cultural value that's instilled with them so that they can continue on that legacy for years to come. And I, to be quite frank with you and to be honest, full transparency, I wasn't able to, I didn't really get to hear the full scope of the.
That's because she was the star of the
because
show.
I was in.
She was the star of the show.
You know?
So let me tell you, she was doing costume changes. That is why she wasn't able to hear. But I was able to hear and see Everly on stage in all the glory. But the speaker, what stood out to me last year in hearing the speaker was not only that it's this person, this woman in Hawaii, and talk about just the history, right?
Yes.
Of the history from and relating it to the youth and people that are right here. And to know that that is not just a story one time.
Mhm.
That is what our trans youth are going through right here in Washington. And so to be able to listen to that and for them to connect those dots, that it's not just this wonderful, beautiful person on stage talking about their life and all the troubles that they had to go through and why they came about to become an advocate and a speaker, but the way that she related it to the work that you do. And this is after, like, we had just we got to know you all, and Del works at Utopia, and Del's amazing. But it just really kind of hit home with me because it's just to understand the passion that I see from you and Del, and why that was so important, and why we should, like, as a community, all stand up and, as you talked about, in solidarity. So you didn't get to see all that or hear all that because you were the star of the show doing multiple outfit changes with the smoke and all this stuff. But that, for me as an audience member, and being able to witness that and sit there and to connect the pieces on why our work and our solidarity and our community and why we should stand up, continue to stand up for each other, very much it still sits with me. So I just want to say thank you for inviting us to that space, for us to be able to witness that yesterday. It wasn't yesterday, last year, but to be able to witness that, but be able to also have that information so I can go back and reflect on it. So, and that's a lot of kind of what you do in the community. You want to talk a little bit more about connecting those dots of, like, support and solidarity, and why it's important for you to do the work that you do.
Yeah. So we talk a little bit about the play. So the play was amazing. The idea was built and connected by our lovely Arlie Yandel. She's our Mana Culture Program director, who wrote the play, who wrote the script, and basically narrated everything about the importance about sharing about our stories as trans communities, as queer trans-Pacific Islanders, and how we are often being secluded from decision-making tables. And that has been, I guess, a problem for many of our communities in navigating resources and having the full autonomy to access those resources. Is we're always being undermined, undervalued, shoved to the corner just because of our identities and how we want to be presented. And through that play, of resilience, so to speak, it basically confronted that issue within our own culture, and not only within our culture, but where we're living at now, where we're operating at, in the diaspora or anywhere in the world you may be at, is bringing to attention that, although we're there culturally, spiritually, to support families and friends in terms of um, decorating churches or facilities, because our girls are very talented in those
Oh.
areas. Okay, we are the keepers of culture and heritage and traditions. And to be, excluded when it comes to, um, things that needs to be decided upon as a community, we're mostly left out without being considered or without our voice being heard in those discussions, especially discussions around how emergency relief funds are being distributed. Like, how is that? Let's talk about that. Like, how is that always being um, distributed? Like, who gets to make the rules? Who gets to bend the rules? And with our community coming into shape and realizing that that has been a problem since the get-go, like, it needs to stop. That it's just tiring trying to find our spaces in those circles. We basically need to have a seat at the table. We deserve it because we've been doing this work through time and memorial, So, yeah, thank you for that. Was a beautiful question. I want to share more about it. Like, it's that's always been the case, and now more than ever, I feel like through that play, through that beautiful display of culture, I believe that we were able to connect to so many people that attended the luau that night. And I'm glad that you also received that part of what we were trying to depict and portray through our cultural performance is basically that. How do you stand in solidarity with queer and trans Pacific Islander communities? And seeing the support from our families, our parents, and our the different people that came over was just so moving. I literally teared and cried during my part in the play because it was so powerful how our communities rose up and walked to the stage to show support and dancing with us and singing with us and just being there in spirits. And I could tell, like, I felt the warmth from them, and it was such a moving experience.
It was definitely, you can feel it all around the room.
Samana.
Yes, you can feel it all around the room. So it was such a great honor. Like I said, I feel that one of the other important lessons and that I noticed that not only is talked about in your community, but also communities of color around Washington and the world, is just the reverence of elders, right? Like the honor and the support and bringing like elders and aunties. And I'm an auntie. I take my job very seriously. But I just, that was also in the play of making sure that there are these bits of wisdom that you got and that the support. And when nobody can take you in, it's some of these elders and it's some of these people in community that are going to take you in when you are when you don't have a place to go.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a lot of communities, and that's an important place in a lot of communities, and lesson that a lot of communities of color have, time and time again.
Yes.
And so you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for bringing that up. You know, through this battle, through this fight with having to gain acceptance from not only your families but your friends and your community. Um, there are people out there who would love to, to be that family. And that's why we have this concept called chosen families. Although if like our biological family don't want to do or have anything to do with you because of the experiences that you do currently face, you can basically choose anyone to be your family. You have that freedom because of because of the love and support they do share with you and they have with you. And for me, I guess for my experience, I was privileged enough to have such a loving mom who really saw me for who I am growing up and felt that, I bring so much value into the space, not because of what I am as a trans woman, but because of what I bring to the table, and that she is so filled with love in that way, And I love to continue that. Like I want to continue that conversation, even with struggling parents who are trying to find, I guess, a soothing point for them in terms of accepting their kids, their children, who are going through who are going through this same path. Try and listen. Try and have an open heart and mind to listen and find the spirit within you to accept with open arms and with love. Find love, find your peace, inner peace, and then hopefully all will eventually work out for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, I have a sticker that says justice is love out loud.
I love that.
And I think that not so many of our members and, like you and others who have come and who I, again, get the honor. I don't really have a job. I don't think, if it's something you love, right? It's not really work. Although my colleagues maybe when I'm planning events, maybe say that I'm a little frazzled, it might be work, but it's all of love. But I think that, so many of our members do that same thing that you all are doing, where it's just like, we are going to welcome you.
Yes.
We are going to care about this planet, and we are going to care about the community, and we are going to care about changing these long-term policies, and we're going to stand together and open you with love. And I think that that's such a great place to end. I think that's such a wonderful, amazing thing. And thank you for that, because you all are definitely, every time that we talk and every time you come to this place of collaboration with such a big open heart, open minds, and full of love, because it is all about that bigger picture. So we only have a couple minutes left. You want to talk about, is there anything that you want to tell the people out there that are listening about how they can volunteer, how they can work with you, how they can support you in ways, go for it. We have a couple minutes left. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart.
I love this whole concept of food over conversations. It makes things more sensible, It places a lot of center, a lot of center on or a lot of focus on the important things. Okay. As far as the events and the need for volunteers, of course, there's a lot of different events and activities that we do host throughout the year. And we ask that if you are part of the community, if you say that you're an ally, or if you stand in solidarity with LGBTQIA in general, and with communities in general, this is your opportunity to show out and show up for communities in providing, volunteer work or volunteer assistance. You can check out our website at utopiawashington.org or utopiawa.org, and you'll find a plethora and a list of information in terms of events and activities that we'll be hosting. One thing, we do host an ongoing Adopt a Street program cleanup service or project with the city of Kent. And advertisements or flyers do go out every, I guess, 2 months to share that event so that folks can have enough time to register and then make plans to come by and be a part of that movement. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so don't forget, mark your calendars because there's a big eco fashion show on Earth Day on Saturday. It's 11 to 3, right? 11 to 3. And then they also have, if you're not going to be here at our youth takeover, or even if you are going to be here, you can do both.
Yes.
You can do both. You do it. Yeah, absolutely. Send your kid here and then, with a chaperone, and tune in. You could be here tuning into the Talanoa. So again, that's Wednesday. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I absolutely appreciate this, and I love our collaboration from Front and Center and Utopia. We will see you at Columbia City Theater this week. Happy Earth Day, happy Earth Week, happy Earth Year from us to you.
So possible.